She sits in the waiting room of Dr. Edmund Carter's private clinic, her hands trembling slightly despite the heavy London heat. The gas lights flicker above, throwing restless shadows across polished mahogany walls lined with leather-bound journals she's never dared to open. Mrs. Adelaide Whitmore folds her gloved hands in her lap, trying to still the faint shaking that betrays her composure. She has been here before 3 times this month alone, and yet each visit carries with it the same weight of unspoken shame. Her symptoms had started quietly, sleepless nights that stretched endlessly, sudden flashes of irritation over trivial things, a servant's mistake, a misplaced cup, tremors in her hands that turned afternoon tea into a struggle. Then came the breathlessness, a feeling as though invisible hands pressed against her chest, making every inhale a conscious act. 3 weeks ago, at a grand social gathering, something inside her had broken. A violent tremor seized her body, her pulse racing, her face flushed, her breathing ragged. The other guests looked away as her husband, Lord Whitmore, led her from the room in silence. 2 physicians had already seen her. Both offered the same polite indifference: rest. Mrs. Whitmore, baths, tinctures, a change of air. But none had given her answers. Dr. Carter, however, was different. A young, confident man, the kind who read the latest European medical papers and spoke of the body like an intricate machine. He listened carefully as she described her symptoms, pen scratching across his notes with mechanical precision. When he finally spoke, his voice carried both authority and finality. Hysteria, he said. The word lingered in the air like incense, a common nervous condition among women of refinement. The female system, you see, is far more delicate, more prone to disturbance than that of men. Adelaide lowered her gaze. She had heard such words before, but in Dr. Carter's tone there was conviction, not just belief, but certainty. He continued almost eagerly. The uterus exerts a remarkable influence over the entire female body. When its essential functions are neglected, it becomes restless. This restlessness manifests in the symptoms you describe. Adelaide's face burned. Unsatisfied? She was a respectable woman, married, modest, proper. Surely he couldn't mean... But he was already standing, gesturing toward a screen in the corner of his office. If you'll disrobe and lie on the table, we can begin treatment at once. Hysteria responds best to early intervention. She obeyed without protest, her heart pounding in her chest. Behind the screen, she removed her gown, her corset, her layers of silk until only a thin white sheet remained. When she stepped out, Dr. Carter had arranged a small tray, bottles of lavender oil, folded cloths, and metal instruments gleaming under the gaslight. The examination table was leather cold even in summer. "Try to relax," he said softly, his tone all business. She lay back, her body rigid beneath the sheet. His hands moved with clinical precision, at first cool, methodical, but soon his motions changed. They grew rhythmic, intentional. A rising wave of unfamiliar heat built within her. Adelaide wanted to speak, to stop him, but her voice caught in her throat. Her breathing quickened, her muscles tensed, and then an overwhelming release, violent, involuntary, unlike anything she had ever known. The sensation left her trembling, gasping, her skin flushed as though fevered. Dr. Carter stepped away, calmly making notes on his clipboard. "Excellent," he murmured. "A pronounced paroxysm. You'll feel much better soon. I recommend 2 sessions per week." She dressed in silence, her mind spinning. What had just happened? What had he done to her? And why, despite her confusion, did she feel an inexplicable urge to return? Long before Mrs. Whitmore ever stepped into Dr. Carter's clinic, the roots of her so-called illness had already been buried deep in the soil of ancient superstition and misunderstanding. The story of hysteria did not begin in Victorian London. It began thousands of years earlier, when the first physicians tried to explain the mystery of women's bodies and minds. In ancient Egypt, medical scrolls described a strange phenomenon. women struck by suffocation, anxiety, and fits of trembling. The cause, they claimed, was a wandering womb, an organ that drifted freely through the body, choking the heart, pressing against the lungs, demanding attention. Centuries later, the Greeks gave this idea a name: hysteria, the Greek word for uterus. From it came the word hysteria, a name that would haunt women for the next 2,000 years. Hippocrates, the father of Western medicine, looked upon women who suffered from fainting, convulsions, and melancholy, and concluded that their wombs had literally come loose, traveling aimlessly inside their bodies like trapped creatures searching for purpose. Plato took the metaphor further. He described the uterus as a living being, an animal within an animal. When denied its natural fulfillment, it would grow angry, rebellious, punishing its host with illness until its desires were met. The cure, according to ancient wisdom, was simple: marriage, pregnancy, obedience to the role the gods had chosen for women. To them, this wasn't cruelty disguised as medicine. It was logic as precise and unquestionable as geometry. Women existed to bear children. If they refused or failed, their own bodies would revolt against them. For centuries, this belief shaped not only medicine but morality itself. A woman's body was no longer her own. It was an instrument, fragile, temperamental, ruled by unseen forces she could neither command nor escape. The surprise, the philosophers said, was not that women became hysterical. The surprise was that so many didn't. This is the story told by Whispered Histories. As demand for hysteria treatment grew, doctors began to face an unexpected problem: exhaustion. Performing dozens of pelvic massages each week was physically draining work. In 1883, a London physician named Dr. Joseph Mortimer Granville sought a solution. His hands ached, his wrists stiffened, and so he did what any inventor of his age would do: he built a machine. He called it the percussor, device powered by electricity that delivered rapid vibrations at the touch of a button. Granville insisted it was meant for treating muscle pain in men, but soon other physicians realized its far more profitable application. Why spend an hour on manual massage when a machine could achieve the same result in minutes? By the turn of the century, vibrators had become standard medical instruments. Marketed as tools of modern science, doctors used them in clinics, and soon manufacturers began selling them directly to homes. By 1900, the electric vibrator was the fifth most common appliance in America, advertised in catalogs beside sewing machines and toasters. And through it all, no one dared call it what it was. To the world, it remained a medical marvel. To the women who used it, knowingly or not, it was liberation disguised as treatment. What began as therapy soon became an empire. By 1915, American physicians earned millions, treating female nervous disorders. Clinics thrived, catalogs sold devices, and society looked away. The denial was total, almost elegant in its absurdity. Doctors wrote academic papers about inducing paroxysms as though describing blood pressure tests. Medical journals published advertisements for the latest devices, each promising revitalized feminine energy. Patients returned week after week, year after year, convinced they were being healed. Some women compared doctors, recommending those whose treatments were most effective. But no one spoke the truth aloud. Respectable women couldn't admit they felt pleasure. Respectable doctors couldn't admit they caused it. So both continued the lie, one seeking relief, the other prestige, each feeding the other's ignorance. It was a perfect illusion, science serving desire, desire disguised as science. Change came from an unlikely source. Sigmund Freud, flawed though he was, dared to suggest that hysteria might not be physical at all, but psychological. His theories fractured the old medical consensus. If hysteria was of the mind, not the womb, then the treatments might be meaningless or worse, delusional. Then came the final blow, not from science but from sin. In the 1920s, early pornographic films began featuring women using vibrators for sexual pleasure. In that moment, everything changed. The same device that had graced the pages of medical catalogues was now seen as obscene. Doctors panicked. Catalogues pulled their ads. Medical journals went silent. The instruments were hidden, discarded, erased. The illusion shattered. The denial collapsed. Within a few years, hysteria treatments vanished, not because medicine had evolved, but because the truth had become too visible to deny. When the treatments ended, silence took their place. The women who had visited those clinics week after week, year after year, simply stopped going. No explanations were offered. No apologies given. The doctors moved on. Society pretended it had all been a misunderstanding. But the women remembered. In their diaries, in coded letters, in quiet conversations between friends, they spoke of the treatments that had made them feel alive. They couldn't name it, not in the language their world allowed. But they knew what it was. They had touched a truth their culture forbade them to see. And when that truth was taken away, many were left hollow, cured of nothing, haunted by the memory of what they could not say aloud. The story of hysteria treatment is not just about ignorance, it's about blindness. A blindness so complete that an entire profession could perform an act of intimacy without ever admitting what it was. These doctors were not monsters. They were the best minds of their time, educated, respected, utterly convinced of their righteousness. They didn't see what they were doing because their world wouldn't allow them to. But the consequences echo into the present. Women's pain still dismissed, their symptoms still labeled emotional, their voices still questioned. The language has changed. The bias remains. This history is not just a relic of the past. It's a mirror showing how easily culture can blind science and how authority can mistake ignorance for truth. The vibrator survived. It was reborn not as a medical tool, but as a symbol of reclaimed autonomy. What once was shame became freedom. What once was silence became voice, because truth, no matter how deeply buried, always finds a way to rise again.